My husband was talking about that because we went out of town this weekend and he had to work. He had to like do alert, and so he couldn't go anywhere. And so he's like, "Yeah, when I logged on for church on Molly's, everyone's like, oh, what cute bunnies."
That's
God,
so sweet. Yeah.
how are you doing?
I've been doing okay. How have you been doing?
I think good. Did you get all your stuff for your I know I say these words wrong, but is it like the expo or the
Oh, yeah. The exhibition, they're not done yet. Yeah, I'll have them done soon though. They're kind of in pieces right now because I'm kind of trying to go a little bit slower normally than I do just to make things better because sometimes I like feel like a machine. So yeah, but I should have some done very soon. They're all just kind of drying or in pieces right now. Yeah. But what about you? Have you been doing any art?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah. Wait, okay, so did you do like a theme or something? Is it all watercolor? Is it all mixed media? Is it
It's a mix. So I have some books in there where I'm using like butterfly wings and other like things inside it, like specimens. And then I have my big butterfly series where it's all watercolor. And then I've got some drawings. It's not all stuff that's going to be shown. It's just finally a chance to like sit down and make some art that's for me. And I know like in my brain right now, it's really hard because I keep wanting to find a way to be like, I need to make money off of this. And then I need to stop because it's not really the best for art. Sometimes you like need to do stuff for yourself.
yeah.
So if it sells, great. If it doesn't, then I'm going to be okay with it. So yeah.
Oh, so glad you got that
Mm.
time.
Yeah, I didn't do as much as I wanted to. I'm doing more now that my husband's gone because I wanted to spend time with him. So it's part of why things are still in pieces right now. But it was worth it. I made sure that he was good before he left.
Oh
But
god. And is he
yeah.
just a couple weeks or something, or is it a longer?
It's a couple months. So he'll be back probably at the end, like the very end of July, maybe. So it'll be right before we move, but he's doing good. Just
Oh god.
Yeah, it sucks because we want to travel and stuff, but I can do some things on my own, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, right? Because at least
Yeah.
here, and you're gonna be going back to Germany where you can
Yeah.
travel.
I'd feel a lot more sad if we were going back to the States and all this happened. So I'm just gonna like leave it alone and not get jealous of other people right now. Sometimes it's a
Exactly.
little bit hard. But what
Yeah.
about you? Have you been able to do things?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me. Yeah. I took a little bit of a break, just like a two. I think I took 2 weeks off of watercolor because yeah, things were just nuts, just with the women's Bible study stuff, and then with yeah, just life stuff. We bought furniture, so that was what I was doing today. Was like reorganizing.
Mhm.
I bought some antiques. But yeah, we actually went out of town this weekend. My husband had to work, and so the kids and I, they had Friday off, and so I was like, we're making the most of this. I planned this like 2 months ago, so
Yeah.
we the Cotswolds, and
Oh, nice.
was so nice because I thought, where's a place that I could, drive because I have to do all the driving, that I can take the kids and not feel like a city, like not feel stressed out or whatever, and
Yeah.
beautiful. And the Cotswolds are it was only about 3.5 hours. It was awesome though. We stayed on this. I would highly recommend it. It was this lady's, I called it a horse farm, but I guess they call it a livery or something. But she
Mhm.
had 8 horses and 6 dogs. And I
Mhm.
think she had a cat and like a bunch of chickens. And so
Oh.
on their farm, like in our own little studio apartment
Mhm.
based little place. And we had all, we were right by her garden and we were up on this hill and it was just beautiful.
Oh, I
And
bet.
the kids were in heaven because all the dogs always greet you when you arrive and when you're outside, and then the horses, and they had a what was it called, the Shetland pony.
Mhm. Oh,
Which is
those are so cute too.
oh, it's so cute. Right when we pulled up, it was like galloping past the car into
Uh-huh.
into their their property or whatever. And yeah, so we went for some hikes and we went and checked out some villages, and the kids they loved it. They're so funny. They were sad because they liked being home, but then they were really sad to leave because they liked being on vacation. And I was like, see, vacation is fun.
Mm.
But we had a great time. My husband was cute. He said, "You were so happy when I would FaceTime him." He's like, "I'm not even there and you're happy." And I'm like, "It's just like restful for me, like to step out
Yeah.
of the house and like we eat a can of SpaghettiOs for dinner and it's okay. We're
That's kind of what I've been doing too. I understand. I think what you mean, where you just can, it's like tone it down a little bit and just enjoy things, and like enjoy personal time. That's wonderful. Yeah. And being around animals is always just like so exciting because
right.
they're like very soothing to be around.
Right. Because I was looking, we stopped at a couple of National Trusts and oh, I have to show you this. I bought a goose egg. You see how big it is?
Oh.
So I haven't cooked it yet, but they said, yeah, it basically equals 3 scrambled eggs. I bought that at this little market in town, and I was so
how that tastes. Like I've had like quail eggs and other things before, but I've never had a goose egg before because they are slightly different flavors. But yeah, that seems like an adventure. I would do it though. I pretty much will eat anything. Oh, that's so pretty.
It's the bluebells. I thought of you. I thought, oh, it's like our bluebells because we went one National Trust property outside Windsor on the way home, and because I said it's known for its bluebells. So I found a patch, and I was like, oh, I can try to watercolor these.
Oh, that's a great photo to use for that too. That would be really pretty. Very cool.
And then they had these flowers I'd never heard of called cow's lips. Have you ever heard of these? Sorry,
no.
And they're so cool. They're multi-flowers on this.
Okay. I may have seen that at like a garden or something, but I didn't know that's what that was. But that's beautiful.
And then that's garlic, like a special kind of wild garlic, the white, and it kind of smells like it. So I've been taking a lot of flower pictures because I thought, ooh, I want to paint flowers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That would be great practice.
Well, I'm so glad, that you're getting time to, like you said, kind of just enjoy the art, and because I'm sure thing is obviously very different than letting it be like a rest and enjoyment thing. So
well, I had like I don't want to downplay it too much. I'm acting very chill about this, but I had like a weird moment the other day where I was like kind of panicking, where I'm like, what am I doing? Why are you taking a break from this? You got to like continue making this other like commercial stuff. But then that after a while just kind of, I love doing it, but sometimes you just feel like a machine, so it was good to just give myself a minute, even though it took me a long time to get here. So yeah, hopefully it goes smoother than it was like the other day, but I'm having a good day today, so I'm gonna like let that out.
Good. Yes, good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I did one flower. It's not very good, but
oh, that's cute. Yeah.
And then my bird's embarrassing. I won't show you that. But this one is, I did like a mini.
Oh, that is really pretty. Yeah, that turned out great.
Of our cherry blossoms. Those were fun to check out.
Yeah, that was a fun class just because we had already done like the prep work on it too. So you could just enjoy the painting process. So hopefully the butterflies are like this too, because it's a lot like the pansies class and other like wet and wet techniques. The bumblebee one, did you get to do any of that yet? Probably not, right?
Not yet. I'm looking forward to it though.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know. That one's a little bit more, I guess, but I think you'll do great. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I'll switch my camera really quick because it's actually working today. I haven't been able to like show myself on camera in a while because it kept disconnecting. But I guess this new update works. So yay. So I have a few little examples here today. And then I have some paper cutouts and things that I like to use as references. So if you're wanting to do different shapes or simplify your butterflies, you can use those. And then I also have a butterfly book that a friend gave me that has the different species and things in there. So if you're looking for a certain type, maybe we could base it off of that. So I just brought it out just in case. But most likely we'll only get through these 3 if you want to do these 3.
Yeah, those are perfect. I love them.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah, we'll do some warm-ups where we're not adding the veins and other things into it, where it's just the wet and wet techniques. So you can just enjoy the process. And then as we get further into the class, we'll do more detail work like what you're seeing down here. And we're mostly just working with a few colors, our primaries. If you have some indigo or Payne's gray or like a black, like a ivory black or lamp black, that's going to come in handy. Just because some of the colors are really dark around the edges. So I can show you how to mix the Payne's gray like I did in the bumblebee class too, if you want, or you can just use it out of the tube.
Yeah, whatever. I'm good with whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I might do it just on screen to show Jen in case she doesn't have that. I think she does. I'm trying to remember from our last class, but if not, yeah, I'll just show all of it. So let's see. When I do these, sometimes it's easier also to cut the paper down to a specific size. So then you can create like little swatches or different collections of it. And that just keeps me on track with like the scale of them. But I have a few cut out here that I'll just do on screen today, and then just some larger sheets for practicing. So you can always cut them out afterwards if you want. Cool. And then I just have my round brushes. So same ones that I used last time. I have the 4, 6, and number 2. So anything similar to it, if you want to go even smaller than the 2, that might help when we're using like these itty bitty little lines for the butterflies and like the veins of the butterfly. But you can always make it watery. Okay, so we'll do just some quick little color mixing and swatches. So we'll start with our monarch butterfly here, which is a really easy one to do. And I'm just going to use my big brush and go into my cadmium yellow here. So anything that's kind of more in that darker yellow or like yellow orange is going to help really well. So is your husband away for a while too, or is he just gone for a few days?
It's so funny. He was supposed to go stateside for training. It was 5-day training, and then he was supposed to be gone, quarantine there, quarantine back. They ended up bumping it to the end of July. So he's actually here. His coworker was taking leave, and one of them needed to be around. And so he's like, shoot, I can't go with you. So he just actually stayed home while we went out of town.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was nice for him because I said, well, you never get that. Because even the dogs were at the dog place. I said, you never go. I think my dog has to go to bed. Sorry. Speaking of dogs, Fergus.
Oh, you're fine.
At the house all to himself. Sorry, wait, are you okay? Sorry, he's just visiting me. They came back. Hello. All right. But yeah. So no, we're hoping he can make the next trip. Him and Tristan are supposed to go camping actually in 2 weeks. And so
good.
Yeah, the weather hopefully is getting warmer.
I know. Yeah, it was like really nice for a few days, and then now it's been kind of yucky. But I mean, it'll be sunny. It's just cold.
Right? Yes. So, I'm like, it's May 3rd.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a longer spring because like last year it went so early and then we didn't really have much of a summer because it was so rainy. So hopefully the summer is better. I'm waiting it out a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit left off of my brush here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit more water into another well. Just to have a diluted one. You don't have to do this, but I figured it would be easier when we're mixing some of our colors in case it starts to dry up on you a little bit. And then for this, it's mostly just like oranges and yellows and some reds. Like this dried down a little bit lighter than I'll probably do on screen today. But if you want to help with other colors that we don't really use very often, we can use some of this burnt sienna right here. If you have like a raw sienna or burnt sienna, it has a nice reddish brown to it. So we'll use that for like some of our shadowing. I don't think I've used any of this on screen with you both.
I love that monarch. Oh, I love both of them. But,
oh, thank you. Yeah, I knew you both probably wanted a monarch, so that's like the quintessential like butterfly. So I'm just scooping some of this out, and you can see like it's a really reddish brown. So it'll be perfect whenever we do some of our shadows, especially in this more of the outline of the wing shape here. And then if you want to see what it looks like diluted, you can always just pull that color over a little bit. So we'll just have some of that ready for our thing as well. And then normally for the other parts, I would just use a mix of like a black with an ultramarine blue or a Payne's gray or indigo with a little bit of black in it, just so it's not straight out of the tube here. But just in case you both don't have that color, what you can do is mix up a little bit of your cadmium yellow. A little bit of, we're going to use our cadmium red today too. So anything in the bright red or reddish orange range is going to help. So I'll just do a quick swatch of that too. So that's going to create our oranges for our butterfly. And then I will do a little bit of ultramarine blue mixed with that. So we should get, since all the primaries are mixed together, they neutralize each other. So you should get kind of a brownish black out of it. Like that. So there's a little bit of a glare. So this is really like almost like a burnt umber color. So I'm just going to add a little bit more blue to it. And that should get you that Payne's gray. Yep, that's almost perfect. I'm just going to add a little bit more blue just because I want that. I was like a little bit more color in my blacks. There we go. So let me zoom in on that for you. And since I use this so often, this is why I always just like get it out of the tube. It's one of the few instances where I'm like, fresh out of the tube is perfect because it already has that bluish tint. You can also use like a neutral tint too. That one is more staining, but it has a little bit of a blue to it as well. But I know you have your own collection. Do you have Payne's gray in that collection or indigo or something along those lines?
Yeah, I was looking. I have the ivory black, so I just mixed that with like you said, the ultramarine, and then I did a different that Prussian blue.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that would be great. That'll give you two kind of blue range colors. So I'm just going to take out a little bit of my Payne's gray out of my tube here. And then if I need to, I'll add indigo. So to get that, I mean, you don't even have to buy indigo either. You can just use some of your Payne's gray, like you said, with your ultramarine blue, and that gets you that same color. So I go over that more in the Bumblebee class too, just in case you need a refresher on that. But I just love this color. Okay, so we have a good range of colors here. And normally when you do like your monarch butterfly, when they have all those different spots on them from, I guess, their mimicry, I think that's the technical term, where they have, it looks like eyes and other patterns. You can always mask those out with masking fluid ahead of time. I wasn't sure if both of you had that right now, and that obviously takes a little bit of time to dry. So instead, we're just going to use some of our white paint to create more of this grayish blue tone on top. So don't worry if you don't have that masking fluid, we'll get through that. Cool. Yeah. So I think we have everything we need for that part. So we can do a quick sketch of our monarch. And I'll just do it all on the same page today. I cut those down, but I'm probably not going to use them. Okay, so with our monarch, with the butterflies especially, sometimes it can be kind of tricky to get them to look symmetrical on both sides. So don't worry if they're not perfectly the same, because a lot of times their wings can be a little bit further up or down, or it just makes it more, creative if you just let it be a little bit looser. But what I like to do is try and find some major lines within it. So you can see right along here, you have this nice arch. So I like to use that as my starting point. So you can just do a nice wide arch. Oops, and let me pin this. Poor Jen probably can't see all of this. There we go. So yeah, just a nice wide arch on there. And then what I like to do is find like the center point of it. So it's really easy, just draw down a line right down the middle. And that will help you determine like where the body of the butterfly is at. Instead of trying to do like one side of the wing and match it to the other side, it's just, yeah, it's going to save you a lot of hassle. So from there, what I can do is create just a nice connecting line here on both sides. And don't worry, these aren't going to stay like this. This is just to get us started. So we're going to do a little bit of erasing as we go. Okay. And then from there, what I like to do is figure out where the width of this wing is at. So if I were to draw a line from the center part down, that's going to help me figure out which wing I'm looking at here. So I'm just going to do that. So we'll create like a triangle shape. Okay.
Yeah.
So I might have gone a little bit of wide with this, but I can fix that. So after that, we can start figuring out where this bottom line is here. So we know, make that a little bit wider. That side was just a little skinny. So right here, we can see where this ends. And you can see that the wing on the bottom is always a little bit wider. It has like a different shape to it. So normally it's more of a circle or an oval shape. So we can find a little bit of space here between this point and where this point starts. So we'll just draw that out a little bit on both sides. Okay. So we can erase this other line if we need to.
It does make it easier than doing each half.
Yeah. Yeah, I started doing that last night and I was like, this is kind of a pain. But normally when I'm doing like really specific ones, I'll take a long time to sketch out all the details, but I didn't want us to have any sort of frustrations or things like that today. You can do the same thing with flowers, where if you find like those general shapes first, you can become more and more specific as you go. And that will turn into usually a better drawing. So you can see here how the wings feel like they're kind of chopped off on the top compared to here. So I know I need to extend my little curve down a little bit more. So I'm just going to bring that out a tiny bit more on both sides. So you can see that original line was right here, and then I just pulled that out a little bit more. Good. And we pretty much can see where our body of our butterfly is going to be. Now this is more blurred out right now because I wanted to keep it nice and watery, like what you both like is your style. So you can kind of get a general sense of where the shape of the body is right here. So for some butterflies, they have like a thicker abdomen to them. So what I like to do is start with a little circle for the head up top. I'll do this kind of dark so you can see that on screen. And then usually the shape of their body segments into this other wider shape. And some are actually that small compared to their wings. Now with the monarch, it goes down a little bit more where it connects pretty much towards the base of where those, I want to keep saying petals, this is where the wings start. And since this is going to be nice and watery, we're not worried about any other details right now. We can sketch those in just a little bit, but you will want to erase some of your lines to make sure that they're not too heavy. Well, just to make sure that everything goes well, I think I am going to do one more thing. So you can see on the outer edges where it gets a little bit darker on the monarch. If you want to, you can create just a little curved shape on both sides. And that's going to help you see where you want your darkest colors to be added in that wet and wet technique. And then we're just going to do, yeah, I think it'll be easier for you on your first one. As you go on, you don't need to put your veins in at the same time, but for right now, since this is the first one, we're going to do that. So you can see right along here, it's easier just to start with these major lines that connect back to the head. So I'm going to just do kind of just a simple little curve on both sides. And you want them to also try and match up a little bit with that shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then the top wings are pretty easy because then you have, this is your major vein that runs through the wings. So if you stop right about here, you can just pull that line down on both sides.
Cool. That's neat too if you wanted to do like multicolor butterflies.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have just one more that pulls down right about here on both sides. And we're just simplifying this quite a bit. I know if you're getting into more realism, there's other ways to create these that I like to do where I'm pulling up the vein out of a darker color. If it's like a darker butterfly wing, this one has like these very specific lines to it as the monarch butterfly. But for example, like this butterfly here, I forgot what the name of this one was. I think it's the Red Admiral. It has slightly lighter lines inside it against like a darker background. So that's where I would like pull up that color and just leave the white of the paper showing through. And that makes it easier. But on this first one, it's nice and easy. So from here, you also have a few lines. So I like to just do two major lines coming right alongside the body of the butterfly right here. So just these two that are slightly curved out. And then you have another one that runs right beside it that's a little bit longer. So you're just mimicking that shape. And then another one that kind of pulls off of the other vein that we just put. So that goes out a little bit further. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And then there's another, usually like a line right along the side here. I'm kind of running out of room, but that'll be okay. And then one that connects up to the others. So I just put two little short lines here and then two smaller lines connecting with that last vein. And that's more than enough information that we need for our butterfly right now. So we're not going to put in the antennae or the legs or anything like that. We're just going to leave that be. But you will want to erase most of your lines. Keep them nice and light. And this next step goes pretty quickly. So as long as you can see your veins still showing through on your butterfly, you'll be fine. Okay. So you can barely see it. It's almost like a little connect the dots on there, which is perfect for what we're doing. And what we'll do next is we're going to do that wet and wet technique like we did with the pansies and a few other watercolors we've done in the past. So with a clean wet brush, you're going to just fill in this whole area of your butterfly, including the shape of the body. And I'm going to use a larger brush for this right now. I'm just going to use this number 6 round. If you're working larger, you're going to want to go even bigger. Otherwise, it's going to dry up too fast on you. And you may pull up a little bit of color out of your water. So after we do this butterfly, we'll clean our water out and get some fresh ones. And don't be afraid to add a little bit more water than you think you might need on this. You don't want it like completely puddled up, but you want to have enough time to add in some of your details of your butterfly so they can move around. Because that first step of adding water just mostly gets soaked into your paper. I'm going to fill each section. And don't worry if your hand moves a little bit either. If you have like a slight wiggle or something, it's just going to make your butterfly look more natural. Okay. So you can see I have all of it covered. You can hold it up to the light at an angle just to make sure that it's got a nice shine to it, which it does right here. And I'll keep this one on the side so you can see where we're adding our colors. So the first one we're going to add is more of this yellow color. And we're going to go right along this top curve of our butterfly. And again, you want to work a little bit more fast on this part just to make sure. And then from there, you can load up your brush a little bit more, and we're going to go right along that little outline that we created for our top half of our butterfly. I like to do this part first because it's really easy to lose these little lines for your wings when you're adding in all those veins and stuff. And then we can go right around the body of the butterfly. Just going to keep bringing that around towards the bottom half of our lower wings. You can see it's already moving around on us nicely. After that, you can dip into some of your cadmium red. And we're going to go straight in to this top line with that cadmium red because I want to make this really vibrant. We're going to go right over that top line. And then right along where our top wings are. So we're basically doing the exact same thing. Okay, and then with our pale yellow that we pre-mixed, we're just going to follow our lines for the veins on our butterfly. So it's going to move around a little bit on you, and that's fine. It's just easier to go in the direction of that so you know that you're covering some of the white of the paper.
Ooh.
You can see it okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So again, we want to make sure that it's nice and watery still. So if you need to, you can always add a little bit more water in places if they start to like dry on you. And then after that, I'm going to go back in with this burnt sienna color, this like reddish orange. And this is where you can pick and choose where you want this dark color to go. So I'm going to bring that right along this top edge in just a few spots and along those corners. So you don't have to follow it exactly around. This is just to help you get a little bit more shape to your butterfly. And then I always think about where shadows might be. So right under this top wing, there's usually a shadow since it's above the bottom wings. Always use a little bit of what's left over on your brush to trace the different veins that you have on there. That.
Yeah.
That looks good. And then the last thing that we'll do, you can always add more color. Like if your yellow looks like it's a little bit lost, you can always trace that out a little bit more towards the top or anywhere that you think you might need it. It's looking a little bit light, but I like it to be a little bit light if I'm tracing a darker outline normally. That's looking good. Yeah, you can pick and choose how saturated you want it to be. I'll add a little bit more yellow, just in a few spots. And the nice thing about this technique is that you still keep some of these lighter areas that you want for your butterfly, so it doesn't feel so heavy. After that, just clean off your brush, and then we're going to go in with that Payne's gray color that we just mixed. Basically, what we're going to do is trace the outer edges of every part of our butterfly. So I'm going to start with this bottom half here. This is where you can like wiggle your hand a little bit if you want to create more of that natural looking wing shape. So just a little wiggle to that. You can see it's already moving around a lot on you. So just keep tracing that outer edge. And then when you get to the very outer edge on the top wings, you can just add a little bit more of that color down just around those little corners. If you can see where that original little line that we created in there, that's going to help you find how far you need to bring that in. I'm just going to bring it in to right about there. And I'm just going to keep tracing the rest of my outline. I'll also trace where the wings are from the top and bottom. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of this paint sparingly to add in the head and just a few drops for the center of the body. So you can always leave in some areas that are a little bit open right here. And this is going to dry a little bit lighter too, so we're not losing too much information. So if we want to later on, we can add even a darker black in areas. But it's just to make sure that you're getting a little bit of a shadow around the body, because that's usually where there's a little bit more darker colors for where the butterfly is like tucked in, and then its wings are usually like this. Okay. And then I'm just going to stop right there because I know I'm going fast. It's one of those where you really do have to go fast to get the full effect of your watercolor though.
It always dries better than I think it will. It's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you both like the blooming that occurs where it like seeps into other areas, and that's painting butterflies is so fun because even when you think you're making a mistake, it usually looks really good. So yeah. Now, if you want to, after this dries down, you can do a similar thing where I did on here, where I go back in with a slightly darker color, just in a few spots. That's if you want it to look more like illustrative. This one is very heavy with outlines. So on this one, I might just make it look a little bit more natural where it's, seeping into other areas. Now, after this dries down a tiny bit, you can always, I see like on the center of my wings right here, it's mostly drying. So while it's still a little bit damp, you can trace the lines of, or the veins of your wings if you want it to look less crisp, like what you're seeing right here. So just to show you on screen what I mean, I'm using a really tiny brush and I'm just using the very, very end of it here. Make sure that there's no water that's trickling down the handle of your brush because that's going to make you really upset. And you can just lightly trace the veins. And I like to do it at this step too, because then it just seeps out just a tiny bit. You still have a lot of control, but it's not so heavy. If you feel like you have too much water on your brush when you're tracing these lines, just tap off that excess water on your paper towel. I think I lost one of my lines.
I know, I just lost one of mine too.
We're gonna improvise right here. I'm gonna put in a little squiggly line on both sides. I went a little bit darker in that area than I normally do, but that's good. We can always just improvise where these lines would be on your monarch and nobody knows the difference. You can always, if you need to, trace a little bit more along where these wings are. If it's still damp. If it's not damp, you can just leave it be. And you can see how there's a little bit of fuzziness to it. So if I waited on this side, you can see it's a little bit drier compared to this one. So you can choose like how much time you want to wait for it. I like both of them anyway, so it doesn't really matter on our example here. But for some people, like if you are wanting to be more specific, you might want to wait a little bit longer. Okay. Yeah. And then usually their heads have a little bit more added to it. So we have a tiny bit of a line or a roundness for the eyes. And then they have their little proboscis and mouth area where it kind of comes up like that. If you want it to look more natural. Oops, I made that kind of tall, but that's okay. And then with that small brush, you can always just pull this line out a little bit more. And I'll just press down a little bit harder on the ends. This one's wide right here, but you can add a little antenna on the end. And a few little marks if you want to add for part of their legs in the front.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
You like it?
I love it.
Yay. Yeah, I love painting butterflies. I can do this all day and be happy.
And I was like, these are so fun.
That's probably why I'm in such a good mood. I have butterflies in the other room right now that I'm raising. I have like 20 of them. So I've been
the painted ladies again, or are you doing?
Yeah, I think that's the only ones I can have around here because it's like their natural habitat.
They're so pretty though. They look like monarchs, kind of. They're the same sort of colors. And
yeah, I love the oranges and everything.
fun.
So if you want, while this is drying, because we don't want to add in our white quite yet, we want the white to be as opaque as possible to create these little lines. But I'll leave these out right here. If you want to just do some simple practices, let's say you're having another design where you just want like a butterfly somewhere in the piece. You could do basically an outline of this, just a quick little sketch, which I'll do right here. And these are more illustrative as well, where it's just the overall shape, but that helps. So I'm going to do, this is more of a moth too. Let's try this one right here. So you can do the same thing as you did before. This one's a little bit different of a shape because like when the butterfly is resting, it creates this nice arch. But in this case, you can just draw down a center line, just a little vertical line right here. And then you can have two little sections that are coming from it. So it helps if you can do like a curved line like that on both sides, if you want to make it nice and simple. You can't see that, hang on. So yeah, you can do your center line and then a curve.
Yeah, okay. It's like a C, forwards and back.
Yeah. And these can be as natural looking as you want, or they can just be these really simple little curved shapes like that. People will know that that's a butterfly. So if I want to make that more specific, I can just see like this overall shape here. So this one has more of these curved or squiggly lines around the outside. And then you have this nice curve right here where it goes in.
Okay.
So I'll just leave that on the screen so you can see, and I'll just sketch mine in really quick. And then you can just get rid of any lines that you don't need. And also just put a little bit of information for like the body of the butterfly if you want. That's if you want to show that off. Sometimes you can just have it just be the wings and people still know what it is. Okay. So I'm going to erase most of my lines. And you can pick whatever color that you want for this part right here. So what we'll do, like when we did the pansies, we can just do the bottom half of our lines first that we fill in, and then we can go back over with the top line. So it creates this really nice overlap on the two. So I'm going to use my number 4 round. And I'll just use a little bit of alizarin crimson out of my pan. Just gonna water that down a little bit. We're going to do this a little bit different since we're working smaller. If we do the wet and wet technique, it might add too much water in places. So this will just be the wet on dry. And we'll start with just this overall bottom shape and wiggle my hand a little bit to create some of those curves in that bottom half. And after you practice a little bit with this, you can always freehand it. You don't necessarily have to do a drawing for each part.
I love it because it's like I like it, it makes it feel less stressful for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm like, yay.
So I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit. That feels heavy. You want it to be transparent. Okay. If you want, you can add some other colors into it just to give it a little bit of variety. So just to change things up, I'm going to go in with my yellow, and then I'm just going to drop that into a few spots while it's drying. You can use a darker color if you want later on, if you want to add black or that Payne's gray, that looks really nice. Actually, I'll do some of that now just to show you. So if you do that, just use it sparingly, just maybe along those outer edges, in just a few spots. And this is like a made up butterfly in my head. So if you're looking at a real one, that's always more helpful, but sometimes you just want to have fun.
Yeah. It might be out there. You never know.
You want, you can add spots or something towards the center while it's still a little bit damp so they can move around on you. So let me hold this to the screen. So there's a lot of different things you can do with wet and wet techniques with this. And then I'll just take some more of that alizarin crimson and I'm going to start painting this upper half. If some of that bleeds into it, that's fine. If I wanted to have the full effect, I can let it completely dry, but I just don't want us to run out of time today. Same thing as before, you can drop some color in while it's still damp. And then I just like to go in with a slightly darker color towards the center, just in a few little spots. Got the shape of this a little bit off, but that's okay. You know, the smaller you get with them, the more you can play with how much detail you want to add. Sometimes just having the shape of it is enough, and other times you can get really specific. Just gonna add some little antenna to it. And that's just like a really simple butterfly from your imagination.
That's so cool.
So if you want, you can practice with a few more of these shapes while this is still drying. This is almost done. I have this one out too, if you want to see part of it like that. That's one of my printmaking ones that I did through the press. Yeah, I have a bunch of those in the works too, where they're still as plates right now. That's why I'm like, I can't show you a whole lot, but I will soon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Are you feeling better after your vaccine?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yeah, it was crazy. I had gotten it the same day as a couple of my friends, and every single one of us, excuse me, had just different. A couple of them stayed in bed. I guess they could, teenagers, so they they didn't need to be around as much. But yeah, it was weird. I had chills Friday night, and then just like super pain in my arm for about 2 days, and then like just kind of a residual headache. And I don't really try to take medicine very much, so I took a leave, and then it's like it combated the arm, but my headache was still there.
Yeah. I think I
But
got mine on the same day as you. You went on Friday, right?
yes, you went
Yeah.
for. Did you have any side effects or anything? Or
A little bit. Yeah, my arm hurt. That was the worst part of it, and headaches. But my husband told me to take uh, Tylenol and Advil on and off every couple hours. So as soon as I got to the car, I like popped a Tylenol because he had like a terrible fever from it. So I think I had like a tiny one, but it wasn't nearly as bad as his, where he just was out for a few days. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it seems to affect everybody differently, where some people are really sick from it. So I'm glad you're feeling better.
thank you. Yeah, it was that Friday, and so funny, right? You're like going to the bowling alley to get shots, and
Yeah.
but they had a good system. I felt like I was.
Yeah, I was in and out of there so fast. I couldn't believe it.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember your husband. That's what I kept thinking of. As I thought, oh, let's make this, because I remember he had it, like you had said, he had a rougher
Mm.
reaction, but the second one was easier or less bad, right? When he got it.
Yeah, we were just more prepared, I think. But I think he's got something else going on. His family has a lot of his family members have rheumatoid arthritis. So we think maybe he might have like an underlying autoimmune problem, because there's a few things that happened recently where I was like, this is not normal. So when he comes back, we're going to get it looked at. But yeah, I was like prepared. I had like Gatorade. I had my thermometer out. I cooked ahead of time just in case, because I was nervous what would happen. But one of my friends here, she got really sick. She ended up in the ER twice from it, but she's really tiny. So I don't know if it was affecting her body differently, but she had like the hives that broke out. It's like a complete allergic reaction that happened later on. So I felt so bad for her, but she's feeling better now.
Good, poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were smart about the Gatorade. That's what I told my husband. I said, "Go, please get me 4 grape Gatorades." He's like, "That's it." I'm like, and then I just drank them all. And
Yeah.
wow. Tristan was like, "Wow, I can't believe you just did that."
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy what happens with your body. You probably just needed some aminos and what is it, electrolytes in it? Yeah. I probably over prepared, but it's like
Is
it's
that
just me and a cat.
yes, Bogart? How is Bogart?
He's good. You'll
Good.
see in the Bumblebee recording how he acts.
Oh, is he back in
Yeah.
Canada? Is he saying hi? I hope.
Oh yeah, it's funny.
Oh,
I thought it was funny and kind of annoying, but he's cute. I love it. It makes things easier when, people are away. Everything is less stressful when you have something to cuddle, especially at night.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, this is one so fun. Just still adding. I need to stop. I'm still
Oh,
adding to
okay.
the. All right, I'll take a break. Yes, I love how the little monarch turned out.
Oh, that looks great. That looks really good. Yeah, when we add in these final details, everything's going to come together. So if you want to do that really quick, we can. You're just going to use some of, if you have titanium or Chinese white, or if you have white gouache, that's even better because that's going to give you more opacity with it. So in this one, it's going to be more of like a grayish color. So mine has a little bit of blue added to it, so I need to clean this out. And cat hair. Oops.
A little texture. There you go.
Yeah.
What do I have here? Oh, you have natural white. There you go.
Yeah, that should work. So on this, you just want to make sure it's activated. So just add a little bit of water to it. Just a tiny bit, because we want this to be as opaque as possible. And I'm just going to use my smallest brush for this part. So you want to really load it up where it's almost a dry brush. So if you're using a pan, sometimes you just have to scoop it around in there a little bit more. Now, if you have, like you're using tubes, you probably can just dip into that. And then normally there's a little bit of spotting right around the top edge here. So I don't really have a heavy line on this part compared to this one, but you can just add a few little dashes and spots. And then definitely around these outer edges where we have the black, you can just add in a few longer ovals, smaller ones, wherever you want to put them in. And I'm not thinking too hard on this one. If I'm working from life or a picture, that's easier. But for right now, we're just doing some illustrations. So you can see that okay?
Yeah.
You can also add some down towards this bottom edge here, where it's usually just a few little marks. Just dried slightly lighter than I normally have for it, but I can still see where that black is.
Oh, yeah.
So normally, like after it dries down, you can always go over it with another layer if you need to, if you really want to make that white pop. Or if you're practicing more of these, I would just use some masking fluid after you sketch out your design. And that looks even better because then it brings back the white of the paper. But you can get away with using this. And then for the head, you can always add a few little marks on it as well if you want to just break up some of the shape of the body and the head. It just gives it a little bit more.
Cool.
I always think that like just ties everything together nicely.
Yeah, I love it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if we'll be able to go over all of these today, but we'll try. Would you like to do the blue morpho or the red admiral next?
Oh, the blue. I love
Yeah.
blue.
I like that one too. So I'm just going to keep going down on the page right here because I think I can fit all of them. And on this one, we're going to do something similar to what we had on our small butterfly right here. So if you want, you can just start with the center line. And if you're stacking them, just make sure you give yourself a little bit of space between this butterfly and the one above it, because you still have to add the little details later on. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just create a nice C shape. And this one has more of like a triangle shape to it. So if you wanted to, yeah, let me do that.
Ooh,
Improvising on screen. Yeah, the triangle shape might be easier to do as your major shape in the beginning. So I'm going to start with that. Okay. Just a nice wide triangle on there. You can always just do one long line down the center in case you lose that line. And then from there, we can see that these start to curve in towards the center. So we can just start thinking about where that line goes, which is about right about here. Like that.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
And then when you think about where this opens, so we can see how wide or how tall the actual body of the butterfly is. So I'm just going to do a little elongated oval. And this is one of those butterflies that has massive wings and like an itty bitty body. So from there, I can see right about here, it starts to open up again. So I just erased this little line right here. Good. And then from there, we can start figuring out where this line is. So I like to just do a little curved shape that runs through here.
Cool. Cool.
Good. Okay. And then on this bottom half, you can see it tends to dip in a few spots. So I'm just going to make it slightly curved. Yeah.
There you go. Cool.
And again, we're not looking for realism here. If we were, I'd go way crazier with this, but this is still going to look really nice. So same thing on the top. It usually, we can see that part of the wings need to be elongated, maybe just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to add more of like a point to the end of them.
There we go. Okay.
So we know where our top and bottom wings are, which is the most important part, unless you want to have them just loose like this. And this one's a little bit different since it's going in the opposite direction. So we'll just go ahead and add in just some of the major veins that run through the wings. These also look good too if you just want them to be nice and watery, where you have all this different blooming and bleeding with it. So you don't always have to add the veins to it. I just like doing that. So on this one, we have two major veins that run right down here on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another one that runs in the opposite direction to create like a little curve. And then from this bottom vein that we just drew, we can add in a few little extension lines coming off of it. So I just pulled right from that. And then I'll also do another little one right along here. And then with the top one, we usually have one that just follows the top edge of the butterfly. So it has a little bit of an overlap right there. So I just trace that line next to it. It's windy today. Oh, it's raining. Never mind. I didn't even realize. I just looked up and I was like, oh, wow, that's bad. So from there, we have another little line that curves down and then follows back up. This one's always a little bit tricky for me. So sometimes I have to turn my piece of paper upside down to see if they're close to being symmetrical.
Oh, and I was thinking about that because I know we're both left-handed. I thought,
Yeah, if you
a little different, than everybody else.
So yeah, you can always turn it upside down, and you can see here where I'm like, if I want to make them look more symmetrical, it's just like your brain can see it better. So from there, we have this major line right here. So we can just pull this line down where that curve is. So I just followed it right down here. And then normally there's a few more coming off of this same major line. So you can just add 2 or more on the sides, just to give it more of that wing effect. So just did that. And then I'll do maybe one more that runs like this on both sides. Just another little curve. They have more than that, but we're not doing it. So
did your friend have her baby? I know you were like
oh yeah, not she's got I think 2 or 3 weeks left. So we're waiting. I'm waiting for the phone call. But her one of her neighbors offered to, they live like right next to her in case I can't get to her right away since she's in Thetford. So that gives me a little bit more peace of mind. Yeah. But a few other people offered to, so it makes me happy because I know it'll take me about 20 minutes to get to her. And if there's any sort of problem or anything, I'm kind of stuck. So yeah, any other suggestions? We've got like a meal train going now for when she is back home. I just don't know what I should put in the Jeep. I guess just some towels and stuff. I'm sorry, I've never had a baby.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah, I think towels. Oh, you know what? Sorry, totally off subject. So I brought a lamp.
A lamp? You mean?
Yeah, but I just brought a lamp when we went to the hospital because if you're in there and it's like I call them bug lights, the overhead lights.
Oh, yeah.
That was just like more relaxing. So I think I brought like a little, like a little lamp, like a little desk lamp or whatever. And so that way
idea.
And so it was like more homely, because you're in there, we're in there a couple days because I had C-sections. And so anyway, but yeah, so just that. And then, I mean, I don't know if she likes like a if you do candles or essential oil or something, but the meal train is awesome. And then the big thing we always did for other people, our neighbors in Okinawa and stuff was I always just was like, seriously, I'm going to come and just sit at your house and hold the baby. And then you take a nap for like 3 hours. And that was the best because my one neighbor who it was their first kids, they were like, oh, okay, sure. And then they came knocking. They bring in the pack and play with the sleeping baby. And they, both sets of my neighbors, they did that the first week because I thought this is so easy. I don't have to do anything. I mean, the baby's sleeping, but I just thought just peace of mind.
That makes total sense.
You rest and but the meals, because that's like the last thing on your mind. So I think that's perfect. You guys are good.
Well, one of her other friends set that up too, so I can't take credit for that. I know that you and Jen both brought that up last time, so they beat me to it. But yeah, I think she's in good hands. She's got a couple of us that are trying to help.
That's so good.
I'm just the one in charge of bringing her to the hospital. So I'm like, don't mess this up, Samantha.
Oh no, you'll be good. She probably packed her bag with everything else. So yeah, you got
it's her third, so she's acting very relaxed about it. But I know it's still stressful, especially when you're on your own and you've got 2 kids already that you're taking care of while your husband's away. It's hard enough even without kids. So yeah, we're trying to do what we can.
Sounds like you got support. That's so good.
Yeah. Good old military.
Family away from home,
Yeah. Okay, so from this one, we can go ahead and start erasing most of our lines.
I was gonna say, is your mama gonna be able to come out? Or are you gonna get to have?
She talked about it. I'm not sure right now. We've got a few things happening with our family. So I'm honestly, like, we're so close to moving that if she can't come out now, then maybe when we move to Germany, since we've already been there and she's been there, it'll be easier.
Yeah.
But my grandmother just turned 87 and she wants to come too. So I'm like, let's wait till everybody's vaccinated and safe and things are kind of slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's been about 2 years now since I've seen them in person. So it's definitely overdue.
Yeah.
It's the longest I've ever gone. Usually after a year, I'm like, I need to go. But I will get my vaccine probably the same time as you, since we went on the same day.
The 21st. I'm like, okay. Gearing up.
So on this one, we can mix a few other colors. So you can obviously use your ultramarine blue for this, but if you want to add in a little bit of your alizarin crimson and a little bit of your like intense blue, or you said you had Prussian blue, which is beautiful. That would be like the best color, I think, for yours. So don't be afraid to like mix as you go when you're doing this next step. I may need to get some fresh water though. This is looking kind of rough. So I'll be right back.
We miss you, Jen.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as before. We're just going to start with some fresh, clean water on our brush and just fill in this entire thing. Yeah, this weather needs to get better. I want to go sit outside.
I know, right?
Every time I'm like getting ready to plant things, I'm like, maybe I should wait a little bit longer because some of my other ones went into shock the other day. So some of the veggies aren't growing.
Oh
But
no.
they will.
Yeah. I asked my British neighbor, I said, I'm like, when should I buy my flowers? I don't want them to die. And she said, my dad always said, my father always said, first week of June, because the frost will stop. And I'm like, but all the plants will be gone. She said, you can put
Yeah.
garage or indoors or cover them, I guess, or something. So
Yeah, I need a greenhouse or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that's good advice because normally I try and plant really early, but then sometimes they just get stunted and they don't really produce anything. Okay, so I've got that nice and damp on here. I can see a nice shine to it. Everything's covered. There's enough water that I know can soak in there. And then from there, I'm just going to take some of my ultramarine blue or whatever blue that you decide to use. And you can start with a nice light wash of whatever color that you have. Just going to go right in with my blue. Again, you're going to have to work pretty quickly on this part. You also don't want to add too much more water to your painting as you're working. Otherwise, it might start breaking down that paper. I know I didn't bring that up before, but as we work on some of these darker colors, it's harder. I'm just going to mix some of that with some phthalo blue too, because I like that color. Get that nice intense color in a few spots. Oops, that's really intense. You tone that down. And on this one, that tends to be more of that bright blue towards the center of this butterfly. Also add some alizarin crimson or some pinks and purples anywhere that you'd like. So I'll mix that with some of my ultramarine blue too. To pop that like on the outer edge. My stomach's rumbling. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry.
No.
Okay. So it's looking kind of like a heavy outline right now. So if I need to, I can trace in some of those little veins that we put in. Do this with a lighter color. I'm just trying to make this more pigmented on screen so you could see it. This original one, I started going in really light with it. So I'm just worried that you won't see it. And then lastly, this is where if you want to wait a few minutes, mine's pretty watery right now. But if you feel like there's too much on there, you can just soak some of that color up with your brush and just brush it off on your paper towel. I just have a few that are heavy. And then I'll just go in with my darkest colors, so like my Payne's gray or indigo. And then I'm just going to follow that outer edge and make this one more intense. So you can just drop that color on in a few spots if you want it to look more natural. I'm also going to trace around that top edge. And then this one also has kind of a dark center to it. So I'm just going to plop in a little bit of that color right about there. So it's kind of messy looking right now, but it's going to dry down really nice. And then we can add in our veins. So that was me just working kind of quickly, adding some pinks, purples, blues, anywhere that you want. You can always add in with a little drop of another color if you want to say some of this, more of this intense blue or something towards the center, you can. Add in some little antenna if you want. And hopefully that dries. I went really pigmented with this one. So I'm just going to clean up my water again really quick and I'll be right back.
Oh, Samantha, I don't know if you're talking. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm here. I was just trying to grab something to eat for a second. I'm just finishing eating a banana.
Oh no.
But yeah, we're good.
I saw the mute and I was like, oh no, I've been keeping you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
That happened to me in my class the other day, and my students like didn't tell me until about 5 minutes in, and I was like, thanks. But it was pretty funny.
That's funny.
So you can see here how this is starting to dry down. You're getting some really cool tie-dye effects, hopefully with yours, where it's starting just to blend into each other. This almost has like a galaxy feel to it on this piece. And then if you want, you can always, while this is still a little bit damp, add in some more of those veins. So you might have lost some of them, so I'll just trace them in again. Is yours coming out okay?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I could definitely turn this into like a galaxy butterfly. That's pretty funny. Okay. And then you might have lost the bottom half of your wing, so you definitely want to bring that back if that's gone.
Yeah.
Just going to give you a little bit more structure to it. So the kid's ready to be out of school?
Yes, well, Molly's so cute. She has a special presentation today. She's been talking about it for like 2 weeks about how they're recording them during like what is it, disaster weather report, and her friend are doing tsunamis, and so she's like, I'm gonna dress like a weather reporter. And so
Oh, that's cute.
she was like, I'm so nervous, and I was like, you're so funny. But I think they'll be ready. Yeah, Tristan's cute though, because I mean, he's gonna be in middle school next, which I can't believe.
Yeah, that's crazy. We do grow up way too fast.
But yeah, I think they we just committed to go camping, which I have not really done in like 20 years, with a good family friend of our, well, we Jack and his family, who we did the summer classes with you with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that at the end of June. I found this really cool place that's like called like Sleepy something Hollow, Dreamy Hollows, and it's like 2 minutes south of Hunstanton, and you like rent. It's not, I guess, typical British camping, which is, like, I think people park out on a field kind of thing, and you. So this has like, you have your own little area, and it's old World War I training ground where they have all these trenches and stuff still there from when they would train. And so I thought the kids would like it, and it's not far from Hunstanton, from the beach, and so
yeah, I love that area. It's such a beautiful area. It's crazy how different it looks compared to Feltwell and Methwald and all that. Oh, you're in not Methwald, you're in Hockwald, right?
Hockwald,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, so I know, like when you drive by, you see, like when you enter Hockwald, there's the horses on the left side. That's like Hockwald. They have 2 baby horses, foal, I guess, out there.
Oh, really?
Yes, they have one that we saw for a long time that's really cute. That's white, or like kind of a light gray with spots. And then
Oh, yeah.
like last week, and it looked like, I mean, literally like this little baby had just been born. He's just the cutest.
I do love driving by them every day. I thought I saw, I don't think it was right there though. I think it was further down the road, more towards like Mildenhall the other day. I saw a foal, and it just, yeah, my heart melted even driving. I'm always worried I'm gonna get in a wreck when I'm trying to look at all the animals on the side of the road.
I'm the same way. I'm like, don't get in a wreck, please. Don't look too long.
Yeah, because I always like seeing the different types of sheep and stuff, and if they have the lambs out, which I saw the other day. Yeah, it's adorable.
Yes, I took pictures the other day. I was like, I have to try to paint them again. They're so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, they are cute. I don't think, well, I did paint a horse for one commission, but I haven't painted too many of them since living here. It's
Yeah.
tricky. Yeah.
I bet you could do awesome though. But yeah, I was just even it was so cute though. It's like it was running alongside its mama and
Oh,
mini mommy, and it was just coming towards it. I was like, we all screamed. I mean, Tristan, Molly, and I were all screaming. It's so cute.
yeah, that is really sweet. Have you been over to the Fen in a while? Like, I'm not sure what's grown over there since it's been kind of a weird spring, but it's that Lake and Heath Fen. You've been back there, right?
Oh, I don't
By
know.
by the train station in Lake and Heath, or like on the way to Lake and Heath from Hockwald. It's like on the right. I've been there
Oh,
once.
the RSPD. The
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Tristan and I went there about a year ago, but we haven't been lately. Have you been before? Or
Oh no, I went once, but I want to go back there. I'm just waiting for the weather to get a little bit better and things to look prettier outside. But I wasn't sure if you went during this like time in between the last time we talked.
yeah. No, yeah, we did. We actually did another one. We did Wentley's Wetlands,
Mhm.
and it's another like nature reserve that's on, obviously on wetland, but it's like 25, it's probably 20 minutes from you. It's north 20 minutes, and it was just one of those little brown signs, and so I
Mhm.
started writing those down because I thought we need to check all of these out.
Yeah, they're
And
pretty cool.
yes, and they had, they just had a lot of birds, and they had a neat kind of observatory, and then a bridge that went over that you could walk
Mhm.
across, and then just little trails. Oh, but I was going to ask you, have you been to Linford Hall?
Yes, you gave me the directions for that. I went with my husband before he left. That was like one of the last things we got to do together. And it was a beautiful day that day too.
Oh,
So
did you get to see the coos, the Highland cows?
yes, they were so cute.
So glad
Yeah.
you went. Oh, I heard
Yeah.
bluebird too. Somebody was telling me. I thought, shoot.
Yeah, the daffodils were still out in full force then too. So we just found a bench that wasn't around anybody and just hung out. And I'm gonna go back there and paint because there's plenty of little spots to just be on your own. And yeah, nature's just beautiful.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, you're right. There's all these like little things tucked away that you wouldn't imagine being there just based on that little sign. So it's kind of fun to just go on an adventure.
Exactly. And I thought they're all in English, and we're not
Mhm.
far away. I can't get too lost.
Yeah, definitely. So would you like to see this last one? Are you doing good with everything so far?
Yeah.
Or is there something different you want to show for it?
No, we can whatever you want. What do we have? 20 minutes? Do you think we could? Do you want to do the last? I'm curious about how you did those veins that are like the internal on that
Yeah,
last
we'll
one.
do it. Yeah, because we already have some of the colors mixed. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do a quick sketch of this. This one again is nice because it has this long little arch to it here. So I'm just gonna trace this in down here. And you see these all over the place in the summer. I think it's the Red Admiral. I know I took like a bunch of pictures of them. Same thing, you're gonna find that center point on it. And then this one, it's kind of easy because we can just do another little oval. So like a really elongated football shape would be probably the easiest way to do that. Okay. And then here, it only has like a slight dip in the piece where it just barely goes down. So you can just create a little curve along where that line is at.
Cool. Okay.
Okay. And then I'll just do a little, kind of like a little triangle shape for the top of the head. And then 2 segments for the body. So 2 like elongated ovals will work for it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then we can see right where this is at, where it splits out towards the bottom half. I'm just drawing some lines down so I can see where I want to put those last wings. So the wings start kind of at a curve like this. And when you're painting them in, you can always wiggle your hand a little bit too, or you can just sketch that in right now. If that's easier for you. And then on this one, just to help figure out where the red is, because painting red over black or another color is going to be really tricky. So I'm going to just create a little curve that goes basically tracing from the bottom half right here of this wing and then tracing it over to the top. It's probably the easiest way to do that. So you can see how that's like connecting together. We're just going to do that on both sides. Okay. And then what I like to do on this one, I actually left the white of the paper showing through. So I just created 2 little round shapes towards the outer edge of the top wings. And we're just going to paint right around those.
Okay. Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to erase the majority of my lines, just like what we did before. And this one's a little bit trickier because we have this darker background and you have to avoid areas. So just make sure that you remember to avoid that white space. Or if you had masking fluid or something, that's where I would just make sure that that's protected. But for right now, we're just practicing. Okay. So for this one, we're going to mix kind of a brownish gray color. So I'm going to mix it first before we just start adding in our water because we're probably going to run out of time when it's drying. So I'm going to take some of that reddish orange color, our sienna color that's in this palette right here. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that to the side. And then I'm just going to mix it with some of my Payne's gray. So you should get like a nice burnt umber color. If you don't want to mix it on your own, you can just use this burnt umber in your palette. I just like to mix it fresh. So if I do a swatch of that, it is almost exactly burnt umber.
Ooh.
So we'll go ahead and wet our paper now. Try to avoid those little ovals that we created and the areas for our red. So we're going to only paint between here. So you should have like 2 little, almost like a horseshoe shape running down the center. And you can switch brushes if it's hard to get in between some of those little shapes that we created. again, make sure you have a decent amount of water added to it so you can not dry too fast. You can always double check. So you can see on here where I left that area open for the red and for the white spots. If for some reason you accidentally went into that, you can just scoop that up with a dry brush. And then from there, we're going to start with this pure red color, or this reddish orange sienna color that we just pulled out. I'm just going to put this right along the center area here. You can bring a little bit of it out to the edges too if you want. Like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then you can add some of that umber color to a few spots. Oh, I forgot to trace our thing. So I'm just going to add in a few little lines here or there stemming from that center part with that burnt umber color. So we can always use some other ones as a reference to where those lines would be.
Cool.
Bring some of that to the outer edge. And then from there, I'm going to go in with my Payne's gray color, or you can use a dark, like a lamp black or a blue black. And I'm just going to go along this outer corner of our top wings. We're going to go right around where those white areas are. So they shouldn't pool into that unless you add that water. It's a little bit dark, so I'm going to scoop some of that up. And I'm also going to just drop some of that Payne's gray color along this top line right here. But we're still avoiding where we're adding that red. I'm also going to add it right along this bottom line right here.
Okay.
Also going to just trace a little bit around this area where my red is going to be. And then right around where the body of the butterfly is going to be. So it's really blooming around in areas. If you want to add some more veins towards these bottom lines, you can just use your brush to pull that color down in a few spots. And I'm going to do that along where my other lines were. So I have some lighter gray areas. So we still want some of that brown showing through. That. And then I'm just going to go a little bit darker again with this Payne's gray right around the sides of the body, just to give it more dimension. And then right along these top edges. So it should still be really nice and watery for you, so you're not worried about it drying up on you. Add a little bit more right along this bottom line right here, where I'm losing some of where that original line was for that wing. So I'm just tapping that on if you want to create more of like a fuzzy look to it. Then I'm just going to paint in part of the body. Just tapping in a few little areas like that. So I actually really like how this looks. It already created some of those little highlights that I wanted for the top. If you wanted to, you can always use a clean wet brush and pull up some of that pigment if you want to create some of these lines that look like they're blending into the wings. And you just clean off any of that extra paint on your brush. So I like to just trace right around this edge here. Pull some of that color down if you want to. So some of it will create a dark line and then some of it will create a highlight. And that just gives a really nice texture for the butterfly.
Yeah.
So easy peasy, not a whole lot to it, but it looks like it. So it's always that trick.
Dry.
I'm gonna put some little antenna right here. And then with that same small brush in your Payne's Gray, you can just go and create some nice thin little lines to go just slightly over some of these wider areas, especially where these little ovals were created. Just really tiny, using just the end of your brush just to fill that in. And you can add any other details of the veins if you want some of that showing through too in spots. This is me getting more into like realism with it, but yeah, you can just barely trace a tiny bit down areas. And then lastly, with your other brush, I'm just going to use my medium round. You can go right into your red paint to create that red admiral look. I used my cadmium red deep just to get it as vibrant as possible, but I'm just going to use the one that's in the pan right here. So it's going to be a little bit more orange. I'm just going to tap that on in a few little areas. And this doesn't look like it's really connected yet to the rest of the butterfly. So I'm going to show you a trick for that. I think I'm just going to add a little bit of alizarin to this. This is so bright that it's taking away from the rest of my piece. So I'm just going to add a tiny pop of alizarin in a few spots, or if you have a deeper red, you don't really need anything else. It's just distracting me. And then lastly, what you can do is go back in with your paint spray again and your smallest brush. And while this red is still damp, you can just add a little bit of black in areas, especially along the base of it. And where it connects to the rest of the butterfly. You can always add a little bit of water to your brush if you need it to move around on you. And mine's drying a little bit. And then any sort of harsh lines or anything can be blurred out with a little bit of water on your brush. I'm just going to add a little bit more Payne's gray towards the top. Some of this dried lighter than I want it to be. So I'm just going to trace that top edge. That's just me being picky, but I think it makes a difference.
Just makes it pop, you know.
Yeah. It's just looking a little dull. If like the red overpowers it, then something else has to like push that back. That looks pretty good. And then you can always go a little bit darker again, right around the body of the butterfly right here. And always just blur that out with a little bit of water on your brush. That looks pretty good. I think on this one, I just went a little bit darker with some of my colors, but I actually don't mind at all how that turned out. It just looks a little bit more tight with the drawing.
Well, it's so cool. They can look, you know, no, it's like no two butterflies are alike, right? It's like
true. That's very true. Yeah, but this turned out good. Cool.
This one's different too.
Thanks. Any questions or anything about it, or things that you might be having problems with, or things that you like about it? Whatever you think's working.
I love it because you're so patient with all of it. Because I'm like, oh, I love the wet on wet. Oh, I love the dry, you know, the wet on dry. And it's just like that repetition of understanding, and then that science, like how much do you weight, but then you get a feel for the weight, and then blend and the everything. Because it's fun to, the butterfly is super fun to like be challenged with the color mix, you know, like pairing, you know, it's like picking out outfits. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is one where usually like I set like a specific palette for, but I was like, we're doing different colored butterflies, so we're just winging it for the most part. But we used a good portion of our palette today that we don't normally use, so that makes me pretty happy.
I love it. So, I can show you in just a second if you want.
Sure, I would love that.
Okay. A little bit more to my red. I feel like I need to do something more to that. Just hold it up. Okay, so here's, I love the blue one.
Oh, that turned out beautiful.
And then this little guy's drying still.
Oh yeah, that looks good too. I think we just got to find a, on mine too, like the red, I think overpowered. I'm just realizing what might help that. Ooh. It's this line right here. It looks like it's sitting on top. So we can just pop in a little bit more of that black right there.
There you go. Kind of blend it.
But how did your monarch turn out?
Oh, I love the monarch. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, that looks beautiful. Great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you. This is super fun.
And you can always add details to the blue butterfly too, if you want. If you want to just pop in a little bit of that white paint in spots just to give it more texture and pattern.
Yeah,
I'll just do it on screen just to show you that option.
yeah, that'd be great.
Especially against that black.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And along the base of it, it's usually where you would have some spotting. So you can go much further than that with it, but yeah, just to give you a chance to change it up.
I love
Cool.
it.
Well,
Thank
great.
you
You
so
did a great
much.
job. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, Samantha.
You're welcome. I will wait to hear back. I guess next is Jen's turn for, we can do maybe sunflowers, or if she finds something else, we can do that too. And we'll just trade off with everybody on Zoom until we can all be at the same time.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
sure. The time zones are tough. I thank you for working with all of it. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
no, you both are great. I love working with you and I love seeing how your work develops. So I don't want to stop that by any reason.
I just fixed, I think the red's a little better, like you said. I just
Oh
fixed
yeah, that definitely, yeah, it was like starting to just sit on top. That was a big change. Cool. Very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. Take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye.